So, the president has been in the news a lot lately.
It is president season, as the news people call it.
Yes. What better way to celebrate the president by not talking about that president at all?
No, I don't want to talk about it.
No. Instead, let's talk about fake presidents.
Those are the best ones. And especially a couple of these are like genuinely, I think they'd be pretty good in real life, but
yeah,
you know.
That's the thing about most fake presidents is like, you're like...
It's ideal.
It's the ideal person, the bipartisan person who also upholds the values that they were voted on.
Yep. Instead of, it's a fantasy, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That could never happen in real life.
I will say, none of these have anything to do with Aaron Sorkin, so...
I was about to say that. I was like, there's no Sorkin president.
But this is movies, but obviously the guy from West Wing, I don't know his name, but everyone loves him.
I don't either.
But Martin Sheen plays
Martin
him.
Sheen. And then Martin Sheen again in a Sorkin movie.
Yeah.
Who's not that character.
Yeah. He's a great actor president.
Yes. Very presidential. Does the coat thing. I know JD loves.
Yeah. If JD was here, he would talk nonstop. He'd be mad at us that we couldn't remember his name.
He messaged us saying, why isn't he in this list? But,
and we said, movies only.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. Let's go with the obvious answer. Dwayne Elizondo, Mountain Dew, Herbert Camacho from Idiocracy. Mountain Dew is in the news recently.
It is, specifically last night. This guy is, he's kind of, how do we put this?
I think the best way, Idiocracy is what if the dumb people took over and there were no smart people left, is the movie. It's a satirization of America in general. Some would say it's true. Some would say we got a long way to go from that. But regardless, Camacho is an interesting president.
He is.
Because he's perhaps the dumbest president to ever exist. But at the same time in the movie, he's the president they need.
Yes. Because
he ends up saving the day.
He does.
In a way, it's like, just because you're dumb, this is the point Idiocracy makes, just because you're dumb doesn't mean you can't do the right thing.
Yep. And it's also kind of hilarious because he's a former wrestler in the movie.
And Hulk Hogan's recently in the news.
There's a lot of box that this character ticks in like real life. It's slowly getting there, which is hilarious. Terry Crews is just yelling at the top.
Yes.
He's so funny in this. I'd vote for him.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
at this point.
Yeah. He could probably do something good.
But yes, Terry Crews is a great comedic actor.
Oh, yeah.
He's great, hilarious, and other stuff too. Let's now go to the complete opposite. Let's talk about James Marshall, President James Marshall. Sorry, I forgot to say president for Camacho as well.
It's okay.
President James Marshall in Air Force One. This is where Harrison Ford punches Gary Oldman out of a plane.
Get off my plane.
But this one is like, it's the 90s. Everyone is like wishful for a president that is very aggressive. And not in like, oh, I'm going to create these policies, but just sort of like terrorism.
We'll fight for you.
Yeah. Combating terrorism and other stuff, because the World Trade Center in the early 90s was attacked. Obviously, 2001, it gets attacked again.
Yep.
But, there's a lot of terrorism happening in the early 90s. So Air Force One happens, and it just blows people away because Harrison Ford is doing just the dumbest thing possible.
Yeah, I loved this movie. This movie's made for like 12-year-old boys.
Yes.
And I was I wasn't 12 at the time, but I watched it when I was 12. Loved it. I quoted it all the time to my dad, and he's like, "Why do you know this movie?" And I think I'd vote for Harrison Ford. Frank Marshall, was that his name?
James Marshall.
James Marshall. I'd vote for James Marshall, mainly because he punched Gary Oldman out of a plane.
Yeah. And Gary Oldman, he's got his accent on.
He's hamming. He's doing his Gary ham.
But not only would this be a great presidential movie, it's a great plane movie too. Because back then we didn't really know much about Air Force One. We just knew that's what the president flew on. And this was sort of like the first that's what it's like to be in there.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
And then after Air Force One, it's in every movie and TV show ever. So
yes, and we it's in the vernacular.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. I never thought of that because you got the little areas of the plane where he does president stuff. It's Die Hard on a plane, if I remember. That's what they.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was pitched that way.
Yeah.
That's how most action movies in the 90s was pitched. Die Hard on a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Die Hard on a boat. Speed 2, Cruise Control. The 90s is interesting because there's a lot of presidential movies that come out in the 90s. There's one called Primate Colors, I believe, with John Travolta doing Bill Clinton.
Oh, yeah.
Right before the Monica Lewinsky scandal broke out.
Oof.
That's not on the list. That just came to mind. But another one, we already previously talked about this movie. President Thomas J. Whitmore of Independence Day.
Oh, man.
Played by Bill Pullman. You talk about an active president.
He's doing a lot in one day.
Yeah.
He brings the whole world together with his cheesy speech. He does shoot a plane or shoot an alien plane ship. Whatever.
He kills aliens.
He kills aliens. Yeah, just like Harrison Ford kills terrorists.
Everything about it should not work, and it does work. That's because obviously Will Smith is punching aliens.
Yes,
you need that for any summer movie.
And then the poster with them blowing up the White House.
Oh yeah, and the explosion of the White House is insane. And the way they did it, I wish they still made movies this way.
Make miniatures, guys.
Little miniatures that you blow up. What's wrong with that?
They look so good. It always looks good.
But yes, Bill Pullman in that iconic speech. I guarantee you at some point, someone way down the line, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to convince my daughter that this was a real president and he said that.
I mean, it's no different, no better than
and
like
that
a
way,
real one.
When she's talking to her friends in her 20s and they are like, that's from a movie, she'll be so mad at me. And I will say, worth it.
Yeah, worth the
No, I probably won't do that. I will not do that.
Do it for the bid.
That's a little too mean.
That's pretty mean.
Staying in the 90s, it would behoove us not to talk about Morgan Freeman in Deep Impact.
Oh, of course.
Not a great movie. Great president.
And he was president multiple times.
Yes.
But this is...
And God. And
God.
Anyone that needed a great voice, he was it.
Yeah.
And to this day, he is all over the commercials.
He's still there.
But Morgan Freeman as a president is just like perfect casting.
It is. Yep.
He brings that aura. I was looking for another word, but the aura is a good word.
It's like leadership mixed with like calm. Like, I got this, guy.
Yes.
Like, just trust me.
Yeah. And Deep Impact, if you don't know, this is one of those twin movies where Armageddon came out, but also Deep Impact came out around the same time. A comet or a meteor or whatever. I can't even remember what it is anymore. Something's coming. Asteroid. Sure, that's it. Yeah. Maybe. It's one of those three. It's one. We're right.
Yeah. Well, Armageddon was obviously the winner because
yes.
everyone knows that one. And Deep Impact kind of, except for Morgan Freeman being president, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
But
some would argue that it's a better made movie in the terms of like, set design and all this jazz. Because Michael Bay is a certain style.
Yeah.
Whereas Deep Impact, you're not going to get annoyed by his style.
Right.
For Armageddon, you're like, sometimes you can get a headache watching it. But Deep Impact is Morgan Freeman's amazing in it. And he saves the day, kind of. Part of spoiler, part of the asteroid thing hits the planet and kills a lot of people.
Yep.
But Morgan Freeman does save some people in it. So
it's like same thing with like the good leadership. Like he's got it. Don't worry, guys. Even though half of you are dead.
Okay, and now we got to our last president, who is by far the worst one on this list.
This guy sucks.
We're talking about President John Harker from Escape from New York, who turns Manhattan into an open-air prison, and Snake Plissken has to save the president from inside the prison. John Carpenter special, just going way out there.
Well,
super sci-fi, super weird, and then he does a sequel, Escape from LA, and Snake Plissken rides a wave on a surfboard.
Which is just so funny.
But we're not talking about that one.
No.
We're talking about John Harker, perhaps one of the worst presidents in fictional American history.
I mean, just the pitch alone.
Yes.
It's like, well, that's like the worst thing you can possibly do.
Obviously, if you played Metal Gear, any other Metal Gear.
Solid Snake. Or
Solid
whatever
Snake,
he's called.
There's multiple
so many
snakes.
snakes.
Snake! But Kurt Russell, this is like one of his star performances. Mm-hmm. It is the reason he became like an action star. Escape from New York is the perfect 80s. Just like we were talking about the miniatures in Independence Day, they do a lot of like things that you don't expect are practical effects. Like the grid is all practical, real miniatures.
I didn't know that.
They just painted with like neon lines.
Man, get back to miniatures. Like I'm sure it's expensive, but like, come on.
But yeah, there's a lot of movie presidents. Most recently, Meryl Streep in Don't Look Up is one of the more interesting ones because it's like not a great movie, but well, some would argue they liked it a lot.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah. Like, I did not like it at all.
But
so apparently I'm wrong.
Yeah. She's a goofy president.
She is. Her performance is funny.
We need more goofy presidents too. Yeah. So if you're out there watching this movie, if you're watching this video and you want to make a movie about presidents, go a little goofy.
Yeah, goofy with it.
Yeah.
And then make miniatures and then blow them up.
Yeah.
End video.